That was boring, wasn't it?
It was a tough watch, but it's not unlike a lot of games this season. I was on earlier with Sam, who obviously they were the guys doing the game, and I mentioned it briefly. The two styles really that are dominating the Premier League: possession-based football and counter-attacking football. That's your two real bases of setups, and it's not making for great viewing. I mean, I can obviously harp back, and you will remember as well the great derbies that we've had in the past of that Manchester fixture, where there's tackles, there's fury, the crowd are involved, there's bouts of pressure, there's like 6-7 attacks after one another. But today it was sporadic. It was an attack, okay, half a decent chance, that was it, and then possession-based football again, and then we wait for another moment. It's a tough watch.
When you look at the fixtures over the weekend, you would never have thought that the Crystal Palace and Brighton derby would have been the blockbuster in comparison to the Manchester derby, which really does suggest that this season, Pards, outside of the big traditional big six, let's call it, because there's always a debate over who's in the traditional big six, but clubs like your Fulhams, like your Brightons, your Palaces, etc., they're the ones that have been entertaining us this season. Bournemouth, of course, as well.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa played. That was a great game yesterday.
Yeah, I think the big teams. What normally happens in Premier League seasons, like one or two of them would have indifferent seasons. That's usually the case. Not that they don't always have great seasons every year, but the ones that are the top teams, really and truly, we are kind of going, oh, is it really been as good as what we've had in the past? Yeah, and Liverpool getting done today by a Fulham side who was soundly beaten in the cup by Palace. Was a surprise to me, although it was a great result for Fulham, and it's done their hopes of European football no harm at all. It makes for a congested table outside of Liverpool, and that's really the kind of that is a common theme that the Premier League is very much of a muchness.
Yeah,
and as I say, in those two styles. I personally don't love that counter-attacking setup, low block, and then sporadic attacks, and Forest are probably the best team at that. And on the other hand, I'm not a great lover of total possession-based football where no crosses come in and you're trying to thread your way through that Pep Guardiola style that some of the bottom teams have used to their to the major detriment. Southampton, obviously, at the start of the season. Ipswich, possession-based football. Wow, look at what's happened to them.
You mentioned those two styles, the counter-attack and the possession-based. And, of course, Pep Guardiola's teams have been the possession-based brilliance of, the last sort of 5-7 years. Is this why we've seen such a flat energy when it comes to football games lately? I went to Spurs earlier on today. Of course, they got the victory. In the end, the second half was so boring. Football has become boring. And I know a lot of people will say, I know that Jamie O'Hara and Cundy on the Sports Bar called it the Premier League, and a lot of people were saying, it's because the big six aren't performing. That's why everyone's so uninvested. I just think it's across the board. The actual football, like, I want to see a winger go down the wing and just dart past someone, and it's done.
You've hit on what I think is a problem in the Premier League, and that is when you talk about the great Manchester City side of like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, they didn't put a lot of crosses in, but they worked their way in behind defences, and there were sliding balls across the 6-yard box, and it would be regular, and then we'd go out for a corner, then they'd get it again, and they'd work another bit of magic. There might be a shot from the box. No, they've got in behind you again. That doesn't really happen at Manchester City at the moment.
So is that because everyone's countering that with the two banks of four now? We're seeing the low block so much.
No, I just think that they're not as good as they were with it, and the players and the quality has gone down a level. But when you look across, not just the Premier League, when I look at all the divisions, I do think there's a real lack of kind of thrust in the game and energy that has really been the hallmark of the success of this country in terms of the style.
Absolutely.
And we are in danger of becoming very much like the French league, the Spanish league a little bit, where it is sometimes a tough watch.
Let's go to the phone lines on 03717 223344. Don't forget, you can watch us on your smart TVs now. I've been watching a lot of talkSPORT this week at home on the TV. It's fantastic. Make sure you go and do that right now if you can. Let's go to Richard. He's a Liverpool fan. He joins us on the show. Good evening, Richard.
Good evening. I thought that was pathetic today.
No
Very
good.
poor performance. I just think FSG are very lazy owners. Trent's probably going to go on a free, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's just very bad for business, really, isn't it?
Well, the one good thing, obviously, Richard, is you're clearly going to be walking towards that Premier League title on a weekend where
because
Arsenal
we keep losing games. That's the problem, The season's not done yet, is it? And
no.
the way we keep playing,
But
Arsenal are going to win the title, aren't they? They're going to catch up.
Well, this would have been a perfect
losing,
weekend for them to gain on you. Obviously, they gained a point, but they need to be, when you've had a bad weekend, they need to be winning games. So, you're in the fortunate position where the pack that are chasing you, have they got the ability to chase Liverpool down, Pards?
I'm not sure the real belief is in the Arsenal group that they can catch Liverpool. Hence, maybe a lack of focus because, obviously they've got the Champions League coming up and it's going to be a big, big week for them. So, that draw at Everton didn't surprise me. David Moyes, grinding that out and getting something there. But, Liverpool, obviously, they were flat today, and that is a little bit of a worry since the turn of the year. They've been a bit like that.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.